Tonight on the Game On podcast, Saints come to town and leave Port Adelaide absolutely stunned. Adelaide, one of those games of the year, but finishes in controversial fashion. And all the winners from the SA Cricket Awards nights. All right, let's do this. Welcome to the Game On podcast. My name's Pete. Once again, Malcolm joining me here in the studio. Mate, how's your week been?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad at all. Yeah, I'm still celebrating the Shield win, so that's fine.
Couple of quiet cokes in the corner there, mate.
Yes.
Couple of soft drinks.
Yes.
Absolutely love it. Big week, obviously. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Gather round. It's a big week for you. Where are you headed off to and where have you been so far?
I had a look at, went down and had a look at West Coast doing a kids coaching clinic tonight. Geez, Harley Reid's popular. It's incredible. I was talking to one of the guys from the SANFL running it who I knew, and he said they've never come across anyone just being surrounded so much.
Wow.
Wherever. So, yeah.
Number one draft pick?
Yeah, it's incredible in that way. And I said to him, it's funny, it's the same thing with Jake Fraser McKirk with the kids.
Yep.
With the 2020 and that.
Yep.
So, yeah. And look, I'll be at Norwood tomorrow morning for St Kilda training, and then I will go to Prospect to watch the Crows train, see if Rankin trains or not, because I think that if he doesn't play it, I don't fancy the Crows' chances.
Yep.
So have a look there, and still Thursday and Friday working out. Babysitting fits in there as well. So
absolutely.
I'm just not sure yet.
Now, mate, I know you love selling a book. I reckon you got to get one in Jack Higgins' hand, considering he hates South Australia. Mate, there is my challenge for you. See if you can get a photo with Jack Higgins with the book.
Got a photo with Harley Reid with it today.
Yep.
So I reckon that's not a bad idea. Reid Higgins tomorrow.
I'm setting down the challenge for you, mate.
That's fair.
All right, mate. Let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, mate, as per usual, we're going to kick off with the AFL, but we're also going to have a little bit of a look at the soccer, the SANFL. And the SANFLW has been sort of forgotten a little bit, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. But let's get straight into the AFL. Port Adelaide. What has gone wrong with Port Adelaide? St Kilda came to town with a plan, executed it to perfection, but more worrying is that lack of connection with Port Adelaide, isn't it?
Yeah, they're trying to change their game plan and use more handball and run through, and they're overusing the handball. They're going one handball too many.
Yep.
They haven't got Dixon. They haven't got the tall target. Now you've also got Marshall and Lukosius injured.
Yep.
So it's affected them there, but there were times there. Get it in. Georgiadis was beating Camentini virtually every time.
Yep.
Get it in there.
Yep.
And just overuse of the ball, I think, was the big thing there. And, I just think that's...
Is that their Achilles heel at the moment? Or is it a case of a few players are out of form, but also injuries, like we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, are wreaking havoc with some teams?
Yeah.
Is Port Adelaide in that boat?
I think they are. But, look, I think probably the player who was the most disappointing was Connor Rosie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? He can seriously play. We all know that.
Yep.
But there was once where he stopped chasing, and Windhager came through, and you'd have a crack at a kid at under 12s to not keep chasing there. And so, and he's captain. That's not good enough.
Is the captaincy weighing on him during these slightly tougher times?
Yeah, it might be. And I'll be honest, it shouldn't. It's not like in cricket where you're the guy, you're making the decisions.
Yep.
It's footy. It's more. You do it collaboratively together. It's not quite the same. So, in that way, but I do think it is weighing on him.
Yep.
I think and if he's tagged, he's not working hard enough. Windhager, and it wasn't a hard tag.
Yep.
Windhager got a bit of the ball as well, but he just didn't work hard enough.
Yep.
And
is he fit? Is it a case of not quite being fit enough?
He might be carrying something.
Yep.
But
I know we're not in the inner sanctum, so we don't know exactly. But trying to sort of work out where some of these players are just not quite putting it together at the moment. I'm lost for words.
Yeah, because it was a jog where he was chasing to start with, and then he stopped, and Windhager was 30 yards then in front of him receiving the handball back to kick the goal. And Yeah, that was pretty average. And then, look, they got back in the game.
Yes.
And it looked like they were going to run over St Kilda because St Kilda went too defensive and it was like they were playing for a draw, the old cricket line there.
Yep.
And then, it's such a small margin. It evaded the kick from Wanganeen Malira, evaded the Port guy by about a metre.
Yep.
And they would have been running down the ground. It gets to Sinclair. He kicks the goal and they steadied. So it's such a fine line.
Yep.
And we saw that on the Gold Coast, how fine line.
We did indeed. We'll talk about that one in a minute. Put out St Kilda. Let's talk about St Kilda for a minute. They surprise you a little bit. Is Ross Lyon just getting that group together a bit like he did when he was at St Kilda before, where they trust in him that the game plan that they set down works?
Well, I think at the moment you can argue that he's getting the most out of any list of anyone.
Which Hinkley was getting last year out of Port Adelaide.
No doubt about that.
When you look at it now, in hindsight.
I've always thought in the whole of Hinkley's era that he's overachieved with that list.
Yep.
Because I've always thought they drop away too much.
And that's where Ross Lyon is right now with St Kilda, isn't he?
Oh, because they've got a lot of injuries still. Like Philippo and Max King are two of probably their best five or so, haven't played a game.
Yep.
They're certainly two of their more important players.
Yes.
Howard's still injured down back as well. So they've had some significant injuries. And, now, and that's a huge game. This St Kilda GWS game at the home of football this weekend should be a good game.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. I'm assuming you're on the scoreboard, so you get prime view to watch that. Do St Kilda now, because of what they've done, and again, this is only a small sample size. I mean, a lot of things have got to happen for it to be a successful year for St Kilda, but does this sort of make them a destination club in landing that big fish that they've made no secret about in trying to get?
It is, and it's only come out one today where Jordan De Goey, it was St Kilda in the end, knocked him back. They knocked De Goey back because he failed the medical. Yep. Which at the moment you can see why. He's struggling big time with his body. So that it seemed like for a fair while they'd missed another one, but that only came out today. Okay. That they decided no. So that was a very good decision at the moment.
Due diligence. Yeah. Now, you did talk about some injuries there to some very, very key players. Does that unsettle things a little bit like it did a little bit with them last year as well when they did get a couple back?
Yeah, possibly. It's going to be interesting because you hope when Max King comes back that they don't become too Max King conscious, which they've done before.
That's what I'm sort of saying.
It'll be interesting.
Oh, bless you.
Yep.
St Kilda, obviously, playing at Norwood, slightly smaller ground. Does that favour them against someone like a GWS who does like to run and gun? You're right, mate.
Look, it means it's going to be more in close and in contest, which the game there. Now, they've both played a game previously at Norwood, so it's not like either team hasn't had experience at Norwood.
Yep.
And that there are still spots you can create pockets at Norwood. It's not quite as tiny as some people make it out to be.
Agreed.
Look, and the Oval's in great nick. You can't ask anything more.
Do you see St Kilda landing that big fish this year? Or will that be cancelled out by potentially losing one or two along the way as well?
Yeah, you don't know, but geez, they're throwing some huge dollars out, and surely someone's going to bite soon.
Yep.
Whether it's the deconing, it's not exactly like Carlton are cruising, so but, who knows?
But
and I'm not sure that he should be the player they're targeting because I think both DeConing and Marshall, for their impact, need to play the number one ruck role. So I'm not convinced he's the right
It's
player.
a bit like the Gawn and Grundy deal where you've got your number one ruckman and then you have a backup ruckman along the way. That's going to be an interesting watch. If they don't get somebody, then where do you see St Kilda? Are they going to be that middle six team for forever? Which we've talked about?
It needs a Philippo or someone to come on and become the superstar.
Yep.
Not a good player. The A-grade player.
Yep.
With that, and look, he's a genuine chance for that.
Yep.
Now, obviously, depends on injury. He's had a pretty bad injury.
Yep.
How he comes back from there, it's a bloody ruthless competition and hard to come back from injury.
And the lure to come home.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite as big with him.
No.
His personality is very much. I think he wants to be a one-club player.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting there. That's Matthias.
Yep.
And I respect that.
Absolutely. But it's always there in the background,
yeah,
isn't it?
It is.
Yep.
But, yeah, and look, his brother's up for the draft this year as well, so it'll be interesting what happens there.
Yep. All right, let's leave Port Adelaide. Do we see that it will improve, or is it a case of Josh Carr becomes the man a little bit earlier than we all think?
Yeah, who knows? But they lose to Hawthorn this week, 1-4, and then they've got Sydney away, so they could easily be 1-5.
Yep.
And if they're 1-5, they are stuffed.
Yep.
So it's a couple of huge games. They need to win at least one of their next two.
Has the touchy, feely try to be a little bit too cute with this situation where you've got your coach in waiting sitting in the background a little bit?
Oh, look, I don't know. I think out of that, most Port people expected Carr to be the next coach, and there was always calls that he was making shots and all that anyway. Who knows so much there? I think they've tried to change their game plan.
Yep.
Thinking, right, we haven't managed to get the full distance. We're going to have to change with our personnel, and it hasn't worked yet.
Yep.
So,
Cattle as well is going to be a big part of that, and I see them being that middle six team based upon their list at the moment, and that's really where it's at.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's move on to Adelaide. What a game it was. It was actually probably one of the games of the year so far. Have the Crows validated their credentials, I suppose, for an improvement this year? I'm not going to use the finals word, but have they validated that against a very good team, which we respect in the Gold Coast Suns, in that they do have talent to burn, that they're able to actually hang about with them? I won't say they dominated. Either team dominated either way, but they were able to hang about and put themselves in an opportunity
to win. They kept
at
it the whole game. But I'm also angry with Adelaide's selection.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Surely we can move on from Lockie Murphy. Tries hard, and that's nothing against him as a person.
Yep.
I respect him as a person.
Yep.
But the fact he's played over 100 games now and he's just a battler is crap.
So,
if he was elite pressure player, which he's not, or elite finisher, good finisher, whatever. If there's something there, but he's just average at every aspect, and yet they picked him.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Rochelle, we had needed it was for balance. Bullshit. Play Zach Taylor. Play Bond. Move Draper there. Another whatever. But it was
what
crap.
about Luke Pedler?
And play Pedler.
This is what I'm
play
saying.
Talent. I'm angry. I'm far more angry with Adelaide's selection than the umpiring error.
You and me both, mate. As soon as I heard that come out on Thursday night, I just was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got these young guns that have shown that they can play at the level or very close to the level. Give them an opportunity. It's probably the right game to give them an opportunity against quality opposition, knowing that, all right, they probably weren't going to win on Saturday up at the Gold Coast. So play one of these younger players.
Yeah. And, I'm just flabbergasted. And I would have dropped Malira by now. I don't think he's physical enough in the defence. I think that's shown out.
Yep.
Play Nankervis. Give him a decent shot. So I angry. Look, the decision, let's remove that decision. As an umpire, I'm so pissed off that there's no balls. It's said privately by so many people. The 4-umpire system hasn't worked.
Yep.
Go back to 3. Get out of this stupidity, moronic, idiotic, I could keep going, of the umpire out by the boundary line. The worst decision for the game was the free kick against Saligo for the Jed Walter thing, and that was just a horrendous decision. It's nowhere near. It's not even close to a sling tackle when you watch it.
Yep.
And just putrid because of the umpire's positioning. Now he's umpiring where he's told.
Yes.
So he's only doing what he there. You cannot. I don't care who you are. That's a guess.
Yes.
Guessing is crap.
At the elite level too.
I've got no confidence in the AFL at all. We've had Laura Kane. They've appointed 8 million people underneath her because she can't do the job. Just actually be honest. And the umpiring is just horrendous. And yet you had Dylan last year trying to say, it's as good as it's ever been. Don't treat people like idiots.
Yep. 3 umpires seems to be the consensus around the mark as well. Obviously, barring that decision for Rankin, and we talked about this off air, it wasn't a failed mark attempt, it was probably holding the man free
It
kick.
was the free kick. As soon as the arms went round in the marking contest, that's normally
Yep.
paid. And I will say it wasn't paid because the umpire's not in the correct spot.
Yep, absolutely. Thilthorpe, what can you say? He's a man mountain.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about the incident with Mac Andrews there. What was your take on it?
My bit out of that was, hang on, young fella, you've had 5 or 6 kicked on you. Show a bit of maturity and just shut up a bit. I thought that was a bit.
Yep.
It was immature.
Yep.
I don't mind if he dominated and beaten the guy. Yeah, I don't mind. Whatever. But when you've got beaten yourself, just shut up.
Yes.
It's like if you make a duck in cricket, just walk off the ground.
Yep.
Don't say a word. The only thing I will say, Thilthorpe fan, but his last 2 minutes were poor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a worry the thought process. He gave away a free kick where he threw the guy away, which he just didn't have to do. It's a long ball. It's a chaos ball. Just compete, get it to ground, whatever, and then hopefully we crumb it.
Yes.
There. And then the last one, where coming, it was a reasonable kick. He didn't get his hands out far enough in front. If he extends his hands on another metre, he should have marked it.
He marks it or it gets chopped and then he gets a free kick. Yep.
And it would have been a kick for goal to win the game after the siren.
Yep.
So, it was a reasonable kick by coming. It wasn't short, wasn't... Yeah, he could have bullied him, could have gone a bit harder, but then it could have gone on the bounce. So he actually gave him a chance, and his body positioning there. Yes, you're tired, you're knackered. I get that, but his last 2 minutes, after being brilliant till then...
Yes.
Wasn't great. And that worries me that he didn't think his way through it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Adelaide, obviously... showing a lot of grit and determination. I think that's probably the one thing that has evolved with this group. Has their recruiting paid off, or do they still need one or two to sort of make that squad rock solid? Or do you think that they've got enough talent there that has not been played? Which
I think it's probably more on the not being played for mine. I'm sorry, they haven't actually got that many injuries at the moment.
Yep.
Look, if Rankin doesn't come up for Thursday night, good luck to Fox, because I think Chris Scott's coaching at Adelaide Oval has been immaculate over the years as well.
Yep.
But I think there is enough talent. There was just no need to play Lockie Murphy whatsoever, in my opinion.
Well, I think I'm with you on that 100%, and I think there's a few people around as well. All right, let's. There's a few players, obviously, in the SANFL that could be close to a call-up. Who do you think they might be, and maybe who's in danger of leaving if they don't get their opportunity this year?
Well, I'm a Dowling fan.
Yep.
I think he's pretty composed and reasonably footy smart. I'd play Nankervis.
Yes.
And I would have played Nankervis from round one.
Yep.
And I'm a fan of Zach Taylor. I would have had a look at Zach Taylor by now. So there's 3.
Yep. Who goes out? Malira
and Murphy. Crouch comes back.
Yes.
Looks like it'll depend. But if Rankin doesn't come up, Murphy will play. I think he still might play anyway, which I just...
Shake your head about. I'll leave you to speak to the powers that be at Prospect on Thursday.
Sent someone a message. They mightn't have liked what I said.
No,
actually.
a former guest of the show potentially.
No, might be reasonably high up at Adelaide.
There you
go. Didn't like my thoughts.
We might leave that one away. All right, let's talk about round 4 games. Collingwood getting the best of Carlton. What is going on with Carlton? I have my theory on it, but clearly teams have got a hold of them after half time.
I think they lack quality ball users. We've made that point.
Yep.
And now it's probably getting in the head. Now I think there's probably a bit of panic about half time.
Yep.
And McRae actually said it, hey, we'll run over these guys. Mm-hmm. You're selling bullshit. There's nothing wrong with their fitness. It's up in their head.
Yep.
And
the old car salesman.
But the fact that they've been outscored by 19 goals now after half time, it's roughly 19 goals.
Yes.
Is just huge. And that is a real mental barrier at the moment, which sides will use. Look, they do play West Coast and North Melbourne the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
they win those 2 games, then it's suddenly...
That's no guarantee. That's the problem.
I know.
Collingwood, oldest team ever, oldest list, whatever you want to use. They still had enough to beat Carlton. Do you think the wet weather might have just played a little bit of a part in that? Because Sidebottom just went to a whole new level as soon as it got
I think
wet.
their systems were too good as well.
Yep.
But now it's going to be interesting there. This game against Sydney now, they've lost Schultz, Houston, and Jesus, think for goodness sake.
Yes.
Schultz, Houston, and De Goey. So I'm not sure who's going to kick their goals.
Yep.
There. So yeah.
Well, Houston was a bit unlucky with the bounce of the ball. If it hadn't have bounced high, he probably would have taken the ball. He may have still made contact with the player, but yeah, he put himself in a bad position.
Don't bump.
Exactly. All right, Geelong getting up over Melbourne. What's gone wrong with Melbourne? I've left it on the run sheet again. Melbourne, Carlton, West Coast without a win for 2020. Which is the biggest concern?
Oh, I think they all are. I think
Yep.
It's pretty even. But I think for Melbourne, the game's gone past Oliver.
Yes.
In terms of now,
Him being a number one.
his
First
disposal,
ruck. Yep.
his disposal isn't hurting the opposition whatsoever, and the players are just running off him. Something chronic. He's been exposed.
Yep.
I think it's a game. It's just once Gawn's not. He's probably carrying a few sore spots. Dropped a couple of marks on the weekend, which he's never previously done.
Yes.
So that catches up there a bit there as well. He's getting older as well. And Viney as well. It's the same thing. So you've got Viney and Oliver on ball together.
Yes.
And they then get exposed. And again, when they do get the ball, both of them, it's never lace out. It's not a chip. It's just a boot.
It's a panic kick.
And so I think they've been exposed there. So I think Father Time's catching up there. And so I think Melbourne, they went hard at the draft and got a couple of good young kids this year, and they both look pretty reasonable.
Is it that golf of top heavy with a lot of experience, nothing in the middle or not a lot in the middle, and then a couple of good youngsters coming through?
Well, it's pretty incredible that premiership with Melbourne, that game is still, I think, the best I've ever seen a team play.
Yep.
After halftime, Melbourne's footy that day was just unbelievable.
Yep.
And you're thinking, right, they've only got to go roughly close to that, and they can get a dynasty.
Yes.
And now they look
falling apart at the
shit
seams.
out.
Yep.
Leave her out for a couple of months, who's probably their leader down back.
Yep.
Again, May gets exposed on occasions as well.
Without Lever there, he gets exposed big time. So
I think there's a lot of question marks there.
Could you see Simon Goodwin moving on, or does he get a chance to rebuild it?
It'd be interesting. I'm not sure. I don't fancy his chances, if I'm being honest.
Next potential coach, an ex-Nord coach potentially?
I don't know what good he would. I think he'd stay involved in the AFL system for a while, so we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And that's not wishing. I obviously hope Simon's still at Melbourne for a fair while.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, Richmond, impressive against Brisbane Lions, but they never really got out of second gear, did they?
It was the Claytons. Claytons keep it close in terms of they just did what they had to do and just play bruise-free footy. We don't want any injuries ahead of the Collingwood game.
Yep.
In terms of the next couple of weeks, in terms of 2 games close together.
Yes.
They just did what they had to. It's probably the most one-sided game I've ever watched where a team only won by 6 goals.
Yep. Are you excited by Richmond's youth?
I think there's some ability there on the youth. There's and so there should be. You can't get that many top-end draft choices.
Yep.
And, the Smiley hasn't played yet, who went at 7, and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's basically going to be 3 hard years 2 to 3 years at least hard for Richmond people, where they're going to come, they'll either come 17th or 18th this year, while they get games into those kids.
Absolutely.
That's really what it is.
Hey, they're still getting a fair crowd there supporting them. I think that's fantastic after the successful years that they have had. So well done to the Richmond fans.
It'll be interesting how that
as well.
goes. If they keep falling away, then let's wait and see on that one.
The second of probably the 3 big games, big results as far as scores go. North Melbourne going down to Sydney. North Melbourne, where are they at? Where's Clarkson at? I've got here.
I thought they were. I thought they were the most disappointing team for the weekend.
Yep.
Now, at one stage, I think it was out of St Kilda's. Sydney's first 9 goals.
Yes.
That there were 7 turnover goals out of that 9. I spoke to Rick Harley today and said it was such a hard game to measure because North Melbourne's disposal was so bad.
Yep. And Sydney have got some pretty big quality names out at the moment as well.
Yeah.
Do you think North Melbourne have regressed? They showed a little bit a fortnight ago. They were okay against the Crows, but they seem to have gone backwards.
They're not improving as much as you'd want. After that many top-end draft choices, they should be improving more. That was...
Is that Clarkson or is that the development systems that are below him?
Probably a bit of both.
Yep.
But that was bitterly disappointing Saturday night.
Absolutely.
That was terrible.
GWS putting West Coast to the sword. There's no point in saying anything more about West Coast. They are going through a bit of pain now, and they've got some more pain to come as well. So,
and no leadership whatsoever.
And that's a big, big problem. One of the games of the round, Fremantle getting up over the Western Bulldogs. We talked about Riley Thilthorpe being a man mountain. Darcy.
Wow.
These two guys are going to be absolute stars for their respective clubs for years to come, aren't they?
I think Darcy's a genuine chance to be regarded as the best player. Just his ability, because he's so tall, but he takes the ball at the maximum height.
Yes.
So he makes it virtually impossible to spoil. Yep. He's just incredible.
Does that help keep someone like a Bontempelli around where he might have thought about moving on?
Yeah, I'd hope he stays and all that. And look, I just think at the moment, they've also had a lot of injuries to Western Bulldogs, so there's not much luck. They would have been a bit disappointed with something because they actually had more inside 50s. They won the clearances, so they
the
won
numbers
a lot
were
of
actually good for
stats for them. But not every time Freo, especially in the first quarter, went down, they kicked a goal.
That hurts.
And so we're probably Western Bulldogs should have been 3 or 4 up.
Yep.
They weren't, and then Freo took over 10 minutes in the second quarter, and that was game over virtually.
Yep. Some genuinely good contests there. All right, let's move on to our gather round special edition here. Adelaide v Geelong.
Yeah, really important that ranking comes up for mine. Jack Henry out for Geelong does hurt them, I think, and that. But it was just, again, hard to gauge against Melbourne, where I thought Geelong were reasonable, but Melbourne were pretty poor again.
Yep.
So that was hard to read. So, Geelong have been a bit up and down as well. I think they took poor attitude cost them the game against St Kilda.
Yes. Just thinking it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Which is very unlike Scott. He normally has them up and firing the whole time. So
out of there, but they were brilliant round one.
Yep.
Look, it should be, if in doubt, go for the home side.
Yep.
Out of that, it should be even enough for that. But I just think Rankin is so important. If Rankin doesn't play, I'll tip Geelong.
It's going to be very interesting. All right, Adelaide playing Geelong 7:10, Thursday, April 10th in game 1 of the gather round. All right, Friday night. This one promises to be an absolute humdinger with Collingwood taking on Sydney at the Adelaide Oval.
I'm going to go for Sydney. I think Collingwood's injuries will catch up with them. So I'm going for Sydney.
I'm going to go for Sydney. The youth there is probably just going to get me over the line there, as well as I think they're just playing that little bit better.
I've actually been asked to be a guest speaker also at Sydney's pre-match function at the Cathedral. So, yes.
Congratulations. Yes. You're here, there and everywhere. That's what the gather round is about, isn't it, mate? Saturday, April 12 at Barossa Park, a new ground.
Yes.
North Melbourne v the Gold Coast Suns.
Gold Coast.
Gold Coast for me. This one for me is probably a danger game. I hate to say it. Carlton v the West Coast Eagles.
Carlton.
I'm going to go Carlton too, but I'm with no certainty at the moment.
No. West Coast would lose an internal trial at the moment.
Potentially. The Western Bulldogs taking on Brisbane at the Nord Oval, the home football. Now, let's talk about this one before we move on to our next tip. The reigning premier is playing at Nord Oval. Is that a good thing, bad thing, or is it something that we just have to put out of our minds that they are the reigning premiers and they may have requested to come back to Nord? I
certainly know they were happy with Nord last year, and Scotty Ballacre loves it. It's a chance for him to come home.
Absolutely.
And look forward to catching up with Ballacre again and his mum and dad.
Yep. But is it a case of they potentially could have requested it, I'm assuming, before they won the premiership as well?
I'm not sure, because it was quite gather round one, year one.
Yes.
All right, I might be speaking out of school here, but my understanding is Hawthorn loved Nord Oval.
Yep.
And even though they lost to GWS, requested Nord Oval the next year and didn't get it. So, it was a bit strange there in that way.
Yes.
They thought that was similar to Tasmania and that side of things and that, but it didn't come through. So, who knows?
Who knows? great to see the reigning premiers obviously on, and like you were going to say, the home of football there at Nord Oval. Do you think that they've got the gather round right with the 12:50 game at Adelaide Oval, then basically clear it out while the Western Bulldogs Lions game's going on, and then come back later on for the Melbourne Essendon game, which I think should have happened anyway?
Yeah. Because I thought they're trying to do the two
Tickets
for the one. I thought that was silly.
Yep.
And that I actually don't mind that at all.
Yep.
Yeah, out you go, next crowd.
Absolutely. You're going to pick Brisbane over the Western Bulldogs?
Yep.
I am too.
I will go for Brisbane, but I do give the Dogs a chance, especially if Darcy can catch it up forward and that side of things. I'm looking forward to the game.
You might get a front row seat down that,
Yes.
what was it, northern end there with Darcy just leading out of the goal square. Should be good. Melbourne v Essendon.
I'll go Melbourne, but with no confidence whatsoever.
Lever out for me is a big one. I'm going to go Essendon, and that is with absolutely no certainty at the Adelaide Oval. All right, moving on to Sunday, back out at the Barossa, Richmond v Fremantle. Fremantle for me. Nord Oval, St Kilda v GWS.
Should be a good game. I will go GWS, but I reckon it'll be a really close game.
Absolutely, GWS for me there. And to finish off, the grudge match, the return match, Port Adelaide v Hawthorn.
Yeah, while Day's a huge out for Hawthorn, now out for about 3 to 4 months, I'll still go Hawthorn.
Yep, Hawthorn for me as well. You've sort of segued beautifully into some of those injuries. Day, obviously, today has come out for, 6 weeks, thereabouts?
Be longer. It'll be 3 to 4 months. Yeah.
Rankin might be out for a week or two. Lever out for at least 4 to 6 as well. So
probably longer.
Some injuries there that are starting to catch up with a few teams, as we've already talked about previously.
Yeah, and like Sydney, so Mills hurt himself again, so that's been put back another 3 to 4 weeks. Same thing with Treloar at Western Bulldogs.
Yes.
So it's probably the worrying one there where guys keep getting injured at training again when they're trying to rehabilitate and there. So yeah, I think there was someone else from Sydney who did the same thing. I'm trying to remember.
It might have been Papley during the pre-season.
It was before Papley. Okay. In terms of someone else hurt himself again at training as well. So
they're running things to the absolute max on these AFL programs, and like Matty Nix did talk about on AFL 360 last night, the assistant coaches should be remunerated for some of the time and effort that they're putting into some of these clubs a lot better than what they have been. All right. A couple of last-minute things to finish off there on the AFL. Crowd security. 2 guns find their way into the MCG. Clearly a couple of idiots, but at the same time, is security a problem?
Let's also get one that a good mate did make up one point. Well, hang on. So the security guy finds the gun. Good luck. I don't know how I'd react. They haven't got a gun on them.
Yes.
So, out of that, it's not easy. Now, and I see also the irony now that we're going to go harder on bag searches and all that sort of thing. So you're going to be lined up outside.
Yep.
Who's to say a fruitcake doesn't come through and decide right outside the grounds the go anyway? So,
you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah. So out of that, I just... If an idiot wants to do something, they'll do it.
Yep. And they'll find a way of doing it. All right, last one on the AFL, mate, before we move on to a little bit of cricket. Are players' emotions, I suppose, is probably what I'm looking for. Are we a bit too harsh on them these days? Are we thinking a little bit back to yesteryear in that, you bleed red and blue for your club, we'll use Nord as an example, and no one else matters, and I'm not engaging with them before the game. Yes, you are engaging with them after the game, probably privately, whereas it's a little bit more on ground. Or is it a case of there's that much media around and phones on cameras and cameras?
Everything's seen.
Everything is seen. Is it a case of that?
It is a bit, but I did say, as we spoke about with Mac Andrew, pull your head in when your opponent's beaten you pretty convincingly.
Yep.
Yeah, you might have won the last contest, but I think out of that, you got to pull your head in a bit.
What did you think of the Petrarca vision, I suppose, of him being upset a little bit on ground?
I've got mixed on that. I don't mind a player.
Is that him? Is that him
showing his things? But
is that his competitive nature?
Yeah, I hope it was, because you could also say, is he putting himself as number one? Hang on, what I went through for Melbourne, don't I deserve better than this. And now I'm not sure. Just not sure on that one. I can see both sides on that one. With it, you can think it was poor, but then I don't mind a player being really pissed off when his team hasn't been competitive either.
Absolutely.
So,
And the last one for me is probably Lockie Neal. I don't know who specifically he was talking to out on the ground before the game, but it really looked quite almost like they were out for a coffee and just catching up before the game. Is that something that... or is it just the modern day footballer?
Yeah,
this is why I throw it up tonight.
Yeah, I don't mind that one so much. Like, they all know each other. And, I think we probably on that one examine that sort of thing too harshly,
Well, I mean, it's been after the game where players have laughed with oppositions. That's probably been in the spotlight, I suppose, over the last couple of years. But it just seems to be happening before the game and more and more as well.
Then you had the Clayton's press conference of Alan from West Coast, which just didn't really achieve anything. I just didn't see the point of doing it.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I'm not.
Is that a symptomatic of where West Coast are at the moment?
I think so.
They've lost control of everything.
Well, it was just a bit bizarre. It didn't achieve anything. It didn't show leadership.
He didn't say, I'm staying 100%.
Yeah, it just did nothing.
Yeah.
It was, as I said, for mine, it was the Clayton's press conference.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from the AFL. We've covered quite a bit so far. We might take a very, very quick break, and when we come back, we've got Adelaide United, unfortunately, falling outside the top 6. The state game, SANFL versus Victoria here in South Australia this weekend. And the Thunderbirds are go.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary KRIEVS, your dedicated local agent from OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary KRIEVS at OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscasserly.com.au. Make it happen.
Yes, thank you, Cruzy.
Absolutely. We always thank our sponsors and are currently looking for a new sponsor for season number 11. We're already been through 11 seasons. Episode 1 starts next week, so really looking for a couple of sponsors to jump on board and help us out there, mate. All right, let's move on to the SANFL. Round 2 matches have been completed. Obviously, South Adelaide just getting up over the Panthers.
Yeah, West Adelaide, South Adelaide over West
Sorry,
Adelaide, was it? Yeah,
it was South Adelaide versus West Adelaide.
Yeah, did enough in the end. So a good result for South. West obviously more competitive than round 1.
Yes,
which was better, but yeah, I still think those two will be down the bottom.
Absolutely. Sturt getting up over Port Adelaide there at Thomas Farms Oval or Unley Oval. Well done to Sturt there. I think that's about where Sturt are at the moment and about where Port Adelaide are at the moment with their injuries through their AFL side. On the flip side, Adelaide getting up over North Adelaide. Adelaide almost got a full squad to choose from at the moment. A couple of injuries to come from that game there.
Yeah, Toby Murray's out for the majority. He mightn't play again this year, actually.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Not good at all. And the Roosters obviously looking to try and back up after their reasonably impressive round 1 win against Norwood. Norwood in control at half-time against Woodville West Torrens, but fell away, unfortunately, mate. Did you end up going to the game?
No, I didn't in the end. We were 6 up and missed a sitter in the third quarter and fell away after that, which was, it was Woodville West Orange ran all over Nord was disappointing. So,
Absolutely.
but well done to Woodville West Orange.
Absolutely. Down there at Monte Oval, or Monte Kia Oval, I should say. And to finish us off in round 2, there was Glenelg getting up over Central Districts. Again, doing what they needed to do. That list is
that list is fantastic.
It would probably beat West Coast at the moment, wouldn't it? Or to go pretty close.
Well, they'd certainly have more cohesion and be united together and probably more system. Look, I think West Coast, there's still a gap between the two, so I think West Coast would still get up, but it's not as big a gap as it was. Just like there's not as big a gap between Community Footy Div 1 compared to SANFL like there used to be.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the state game. Obviously, South Australia taking on Victoria. A couple of, obviously, players, obviously, from Glenelg. This is what I'm trying to say, is that Glenelg are dominating the number of players that are obviously...
And that's fair enough.
...playing in that squad. And certainly a couple of players from Nord getting the nod as well, mate.
Yeah, so, look, all the best to everyone who gets picked. Look, I last year that game worked well at Glenelg. There was over 4,000 people at Glenelg.
Yes.
I would have liked that game to be at either Glenelg or Richmond, personally.
Yep.
Or Unley.
Yep.
I just personally, I just don't know how to work in the Barossa. I'm just not sure on that. Look, they may get the people who've gone to one game go to the, because it is so close.
Yep.
From the AFL game there. Yeah, just not sure. I think it would have been better personally in town. So I'll wait and see on that one. Might be wrong.
Absolutely.
And it might work, but yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, I've got the lists up here now. Liam McBean, Lockie Hosey, James Bell, Matt Allen, Corey Lyons, Max Proud, Jonty Schoenberg, Cam McRae, and Cam McGree. Dominated, obviously, in last year's grand final. No real surprises there. Billy Cootie and Matty Ling getting the nod from Nord there. And obviously Sturt and North Adelaide being well represented. The reigning Brownlow, the reigning Magarey medal from Sturt, obviously unavailable as well. Yeah. And we obviously know that Harry might be getting a game there at Nord Oval for St Kilda.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't reckon he will. Unfortunately, the scoreboard might be a little bit quieter than it would have been. So I think he's been emergency again last week.
Yep.
I don't think they'll go with Boydie but yeah, unfortunately.
Hopefully we get to see him there, mate. A tip there, SA or Victoria?
Oh, look, Bias will come into it. We better tip SA.
Absolutely, that's where I'm going as well. All right, let's move on to soccer. Adelaide United once again go down. That's one win from their last 10 games, and now they've slipped outside the top 6.
Oh, yet again, it's just conceding too many goals. It's just
they're
incredible.
Scoring plenty, but they're also conceding plenty
just
more.
Ridiculous. Yet again, 5-3, I think it was again. It's just crazy.
Yep. Rumours are still rife about the coach. He didn't sort of water them down. He almost threw a bit of petrol on them, saying, I don't have a contract for next year, so make of it what you will. Yeah. It doesn't look good there. But this is my big question to you. What is their DNA? Are they a development club in a development league, or are they really wanting to win the comp? Because I'm confused.
I think with their situation financially, it is a development club, and you're then selling players to survive. That's the reality.
Yep.
Unless you can attract a huge sponsors. That's sort of the way of the soccer world in general.
Yes.
Out of that, so I do see that. Look, I'd love us to win it, but I thought we were overachieving at the start of the year, probably. But
it's probably shown to be that way, isn't it?
But it's been just. If they were losing like 1-0 or 2-1, I reckon you can wear it a bit more than considering how many goals they're conceding.
5-4, 3-2,
just crazy
5-3. Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, let's move on to cricket, mate. I know this one's right up your alley. The South Australian Awards were announced a couple of days ago, and we've got some big winners, mate.
Yeah, congratulations to Liam Scott. Also winner of the overall and the one-day trophy as well.
Yep.
Amanda Jane Wellington on the female side, Brendan Doggett with the Lord Hampden, Liam Scott with a one-day player, Megan Schutt there as well for the
WBBL and the Strikers BBL.
Jamie Overton. Yep. So, congratulations to everyone. Liam Scott's arrived with a bang. he's had a great year. His bowling was very important overall.
Yes.
I'm still waiting. The umpire's allowed to give Labuschagne out LBW. I haven't seen that that's written anywhere that he wasn't.
Right.
There wasn't a rule that he couldn't be given
It'll
out.
be in law point 634.1 next year. He has to be given out LBW.
It was the hero worshipping umpire rule. It was a ridiculous decision. So out of that, there's some great awards.
Do some of those awards mean a lot more? I mean, we've all played sport at whatever level. In a premiership year or a championship year?
I think it does. It's also probably internally where those things are probably more appreciated within.
Yes.
Because it's not greatly publicised. It's not shown and all that side of things. So I think it's probably more within the group.
Yes.
Where Liam's now accepted as a very important player in all formats and that side of things. And Brendan, the big game performer in that regard as well. 11 wickets on a flat. Karen Rolton, had a little bit there. But as we interviewed Jordan Buckingham earlier, it didn't have as much as that as what people thought on the first day. It was just both teams batted badly, except Jake Lemon.
Now, we haven't really debriefed the final too much as far as the players they got in this year. Sanger's gone to a new level. Carey coming back. If Head was available, it changes the landscape a little bit there. McSweeney's obviously played well. Doggett's played well. Is it a case of that the mix is right? And we talk about that in the AFL, having your mix right. Is it a case with the Saka this year, they got the mix right?
Yeah, I think so. And look, Jason Sanger is it's quite ridiculous when you watch him bat. You look and go, how in the hell were his figures so poor?
Yep.
But I find it also a little bit bizarre that he was cut at the age of 24.
Yes.
As a batsman.
Did they give up on that a little bit too quickly?
I definitely think so. You know, and
because he was an under-19 Australian
he
representative
was always
and a
very
champion.
highly regarded as a kid. And I liked that he actually got made to earn his spot this year. That's something which South Australia haven't done enough of, and I think that's been a weakness. Like Jake Cardner came over from WA and played Shield cricket before he played a district game, and I just didn't agree with that. And I think that worked. I think that was one thing Ryan did, which was better.
Yes.
And I think worked.
So he implemented those systems and procedures around
We made people
players.
earn their spot.
Yep.
And I think that was something which hasn't happened a little bit. Yes, okay, you can argue we didn't have the depth. I don't agree with that. I still think Kelvin Smith's the one for me.
Yep. Well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you think that South Australia's depth has improved and potentially could improve further?
Well, there are rumours around.
Yep.
My understanding is we have signed a player from New South Wales, and that we're going to leave a little bit that there still to come.
We've got to tease it a little bit. Yep.
So, and that side of things. So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. One last one before we finish on the cricket. Congratulations go to former guest of the show, Jake Weatherald, winning the David Boone Medal.
Yeah, congratulations to Jake. I will message him and congratulate him at the end of our show. Wrap for Jake. He's had a great year down in Tasmania. Probably ironically, the one thing he'd be disappointed was his performances against South Australia.
Yep.
So, but he had a great year overall, and right up there in terms of Shield Player of the Year and all that. So Weathers had a great year.
Absolutely. Congratulations go to all the winners involved, and well done. All right, let's talk SANFLW just briefly. Has it been lost amongst the start of the season? Is it at the right time of the year?
It's not.
Yep.
It's not. It's crazy. We'll talk about it till the cows come home.
Yep.
But it should be earlier.
Yes.
Just it's. I know the weather and all that, but
we have lights and a lot of grounds,
etc. Where now you're competing already against AFL and SANFL in general, so it's the poor cousin on the outside, and I don't think we're doing it well enough. That's
if the AFL moved their season back to where it was, what was it, late January, early February, right through to the beginning of March, could that be an opportunity for the SANFL women to sort of tie in with that a little bit?
No doubt about that.
Yep. Make it their time.
I certainly very strong feelings about that.
No.
Because at the moment,
it is lost.
It does. It gets lost, and you're only checking as a footy nut.
Yes.
About it.
Yep.
And you know someone.
Yes.
You know, like there's a couple of players there that I'll follow, you know, because I know them and know their parents, various things like that.
Yep.
So, you know, otherwise you do get lost.
All right, let's talk quickly. Round 4 results. Woodville West Torrens getting up over Norwood, 49-11. North Adelaide getting up over Glenelg there, 52-22. Sturt just getting over the line against West Adelaide there, 22-18. And the closest one of them all weekend was the Panthers getting up over Central Districts by a solitary point.
Yeah, look, probably the one there is Woodville West Torrens have probably arrived a bit. And probably there, also remember they've lost their best player from the last year or so in Martin, daughter of, etc., our golf man.
Yes.
And that, so yeah, they've looked like they're going to be around the mark.
Absolutely.
And they haven't previously been. So I think they'd be pretty happy about that.
But we've seen that a little bit with the SANFL, that teams have stepped up for a year and then dropped back a little bit, stepped up again.
North Adelaide they may have come back a bit where they'd fallen away last year and look like they've come back a bit.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right, after 4 rounds, Woodville West Torrens sitting top of the table, 4 wins, no losses. South Adelaide, 3 wins, 1 loss. North Adelaide, West Adelaide and Sturt, both with 2 wins and 2 losses. So, obviously, with the gather round being on a hiatus this weekend, like I said, it just gets lost amongst everything. But we're going to try and bring a little bit more content as much as we possibly can. All right, let's go for another quick break. We've got coming up. Jordan Buckingham, part 1 on Friday. Really looking forward to that one. And Braden Lyle, part 1 as well on our flashbacks on Monday.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
A dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Flashbacks. Extra time. Big finish.
All right, everyone's favourite time of the night because we're getting towards the end of the episode, mate. Everyone loves it when we get to this part. Let's talk the NRL. State of Origin will soon be back on the agenda or back on the screens, but this year it's off to WA. Is the NRL doing the right thing by sharing it around between SA, Victoria,
I think
WA?
So. It seems to work. You know, you can't argue that it gets big crowds.
Is it because it's a novelty event in those states, or generally?
But I think it's so well respected. You know, the New South Wales, Queensland rivalry with it is just huge in Australian sport. It's one thing which has worked well and truly with the NRL.
Yes.
And it's probably their showpiece, really.
Yep. And we all get jealous and envious of it, being that it's State of Origin and we want it back, which Again, the AFL are trying to get back, but again, don't know how it's going to work. It just doesn't have the...
No, it hasn't got the same thing. You got to remember they've got Australian selection.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
representation from it. Yeah. You got to go 100% or you get found out. The Bulldogs sitting top of the table at the moment, 5 wins from 5 games. Our team that we keep a bit of an eye on, the Storm, at the moment with 3 wins, 1 loss and 1 bye as well. So the top 8 is the Bulldogs, Broncos, Storm, Warriors, Rabbitohs. Go the Rabbitohs, they're my team.
Yep.
Sea Eagles, Raiders, and the Titans taking out the top 8. But obviously with only 5 rounds in, it's always going to be pretty tight. All right, let's move on to the NBL. Let's just talk about them very, very briefly. The Adelaide 36ers have started their recruiting drive with a couple of young new recruits at the moment.
Hopefully that works, and just hopefully they get a bit of stability, because that's the word stability, and the 36ers haven't gone hand in hand or glove in glove for probably a few years years now.
Signings so far have been Isaac White. I think he is a local SA lad coming back. Michael Harris has signed on for 2 years. I think that's only just broken.
Yeah.
But the big one is probably the 2 big recruits from last year. Haven't quite signed on the dotted line yet.
That's a worry.
Do we see that potentially happening?
Who knows? Who knows? I just think the 36ers, who knows? An ex-murderer is easier to predict than the 36ers.
There you go. Let's talk about the NBA. We're getting to the business end of the NBA season. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty of where everyone is sort of located at the moment. In the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics are the number 1 and 2 seeds respectively. And in the West, we've got Oklahoma and Houston. But Los Angeles is probably the big one that most people have looked at as coming pretty hard with their big mid-season trade in Luka Doncic.
Yeah, the huge. Yeah, that was massive.
And James, obviously, probably in his last year. So going to be very interesting there. All right, let's talk netball. Go you Thunderbirds.
Yeah,
we got it wrong a couple of weeks ago, but we got it right last week. They played the Melbourne Vixens. Good result, getting up in round number 1.
As you said, it's a good, solid first-up win against a quality opponent. So very good result.
And that was
promising.
That was against last year's grand final, or runners-up. Was a very good result. All right, moving on to round 2, taking on the Lightning, the Thunderbirds at Uni SC Arena there on Sunday the 13th of April. Good chance to get the team away, a bit of team bonding.
Yeah, and hopefully bring home the chocolates again.
Absolutely, going for that 3-peat, which would be fantastic. All right, let's move on to tennis. Alex de Minaur is one of 5 Aussies competing in the Monte Carlo Masters this week. Australia's done pretty well at the Monte Carlo Masters, but I'd just like to see Alex de Minaur take one more step.
Yeah, we do. We talk about that constantly. We love his competitiveness, but we'd love to see him actually get a W.
Bit of a challenge for you next week, mate. I won't spring it on you now. We'll hold off till next week. We're going to build a tennis player next week. Best forehand, best backhand. We'll have a bit of fun with that as well. In the women's, the Australian women's are vying in the Billie Jean Cup for a final spot. They're playing in Brisbane this week.
Yeah, at least it's something in Australia.
Absolutely.
And all that. So, all the best there, and it'll be interesting. Billie Jean King Cup, it's a pretty famous name there, in tennis. If you'd think the majority would look, okay, well, I better Google this. Hey, geez.
Yep. Her record is second to none. There's no doubt about that. And just in the women's, Elena Tomljanovic, I'll get that one right.
That well played.
I got that one through to the keeper without messing it up. Has been on a bit of a tear lately, and really looking forward to seeing her in action in the back end of this year after getting over some injuries for the last 12, 18 months.
Yes. Yeah, finally, hopefully getting her body right.
All right, let's finish off with a couple of hot topics. Will Tasmania be delayed to 2030? Your thoughts?
It's not looking great at the moment. Government's, and debate and drags out.
Yep.
And all of a sudden...
Is this federal election potentially going to have something to play with it as well?
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Would it be the worst thing for it to be delayed out to 2030?
There's a big chance for it to be delayed yet, I think.
And then my second part to that question is, who should be the 20th team? I know we've had great debate about it previously, but that would allow for conference systems of two conferences of 10, which would certainly help things along there. Should it go to the Northern Territory?
logically, yes. Financially, whether that can work is probably the other big point.
Yep.
Will it be Northern Territory?
Yep.
Nord. So
Yep.
who knows?
Oh, there you go. The good, the bad, the ugly for the week, mate. Let's finish it off on a high note.
Look. No, I think let's go on a poor note.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Done. I'll go on the good note, you go on the poor note. All right, let's do it.
Umpiring yet again.
Yep.
AFL, lacking consistency, lacking honesty. And I did message a former AFL umpire, and he came back even harder than I was.
Yep.
Just on the bullshit, which it is, instead of someone just actually being honest with it. And yeah, it's very frustrating.
Absolutely. Well, my couple of goods for the week, gather round back in Adelaide.
Yes.
I am hoping that Peter Malinauskas has another announcement. I know that he got the live deal done pretty early in the piece. I would say he's working pretty hard to get the SA gather around, and it's just a logical choice. I don't care what people say about that it's in South Australia and everything. It's just a logical, centrally located place, isn't it?
It's a central place. It's far easier to get here. And let's, again, because it's a Victorian-dominated competition...
It's good to get one back, isn't it?
Oh, no, not so much that. It's the fact for 10 clubs, it's easy to get here.
Yep.
For 10 supporter bases, it is the best venue.
Yep.
And it was interesting to hear talk about Paul Salmon today, where someone said, "You're coming over?" He said, "Yeah, I'm over for the week. I'm pissed off. I only came a couple of days last year, so I'm for the week."
Yep.
So it's a huge result for South Australia tourism-wise.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Really looking forward to seeing all the shows, the TV shows, the footy shows that are going to be scattered amongst everything that is happening here. My other good for the week, the Thunderbirds winning their first game in their title defence.
Yep.
Absolutely great to see them, and wouldn't it be nice for them to bring home a title? We were sitting here this time last year, no Shield, no one-dayers. We'd only just won the Thunderbirds the year before. Geez, it would be nice for them to win it. Maybe in Adelaide or a Port Adelaide to win a premiership. Who knows?
Right, no, come on. You don't have to go that far. No need for that.
Oh, I did say I was going to do a bad as well. But anyway, it's been fantastic. Enjoy the gather round, mate. I know you're going to be out and about talking to people. Let them know about the podcast, and hopefully we get a few extra listeners along the way.
Yeah, no, thanks to a couple of mates, cricket mates, Andy and Chris, who now have and really positive feedback about our podcast in general. I will send you some of their messages to you, mate. So thanks to Andy and Chris. I should have done that earlier when we had Bucky to mention there with other few fellow Shield nuts. So thanks, guys.
Absolutely. All right, as per usual, we promise to do better next week, and we will. Until then, thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at SportsCast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.